When we say this bad thing happened, and so I am feeling this way, I am angry, what we're missing in the middle are two vital steps: the nervous system response and our own thoughts about it.
So can you define somatics for somebody who's like, I have no idea what that means? Yeah.
What on earth are these women talking about? Yeah. So soma comes from the Greek and it means body. Recently, I heard the translation, the body in its wholeness, which I absolutely love because that's what it's about. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
So it's a return to our connection with our bodies in their wholeness. One of my sheroes, Susan McConnell from the somatic internal family systems world, she talks about somatics as the felt shift from I have a body to I am my body. Oof. Isn't that gorgeous?
The deep one.
I know, it's so powerful. And so somatics are the group of practices or modalities that help us to return back to our bodies, to slow down our automatic or autonomic nervous system reactions to life so we can get present to the felt experience of our emotions. They're not just stories in our head, as they often are for so many of us, but through somatics, we connect in with, what does sad feel like in my body? Well, right now it feels like this blue pit in my belly that's just like swirling and heavy and cold. What does anger feel like? Well, it feels like this racing heat in my hands and a flush in my chest, on and on. So we can really start to be connected deeply with our bodies once more, knowing that within white settler colonialism, within the patriarchy, within all these systems of oppression, late stage capitalism, these systems demand that we be detached from our human body for their very existence, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So are you really getting somebody to describe the sensation, the feeling, colors? Like you said so many things there.
Yeah.
Is that really part of that connection process?
For many people it is, because we are so disconnected from the felt experience, and we can use the skills we already. So that's always going to be my path, is how can we use the skills that we already have to lead us towards the thing that feels really challenging, difficult, scary, weird, right? Not something we're uncomfortable with. And so many of us have described things. I just got this new jean jacket. It's like that perfect blue and it's like really snug, but like loose at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
I love it. Yeah.
Right? And so this is a skill we have, but we've used it externally to describe the world around us. And so we just use that skill and turn it inward and bring that power to bear to describe the experience that we're having of an emotion in our bodies. And it lets us really visualize, for those of us who have the capacity. Not everyone does, right?
For sure.
But many of our human brains can describe things and visualize them. The other reason we do that is it helps us to de-identify with the feeling, right? Because like, how many times have you heard all of us say, I am sad. I am, right? It's an I am statement, but much like I say, codependent thinking is a thought habit. I am not codependent, nor are my clients. I am not my emotion, right? There's a part of me having that experience. And when I can de-identify it by seeing it, it's less overwhelming. It's less the whole of who I am, and is more a part of me.
Right. Versus like making it mean something about us.
Right.
This thing happened. Now I'm mad. And now this means I'm a bad person or I'm not good enough.
And what that just brought to mind is when we say this bad thing happened, and so I am feeling this way, I am angry, what we're missing in the middle are two vital steps: the nervous system response and our own thoughts about it.
Expand on that.
Ooh, yes, please. All my favorite nerdy topics. So the work I do is combining thought work based in cognitive behavioral theory and somatic practices. And my training in somatics is through Pat Ogden and the Sensory Motor Psychotherapy Institute as a coach. So bringing those two practices, those two modalities together, we can recognize that life happens. Life gets lifey, as it is prone to, right? Circumstances or situations, scenarios happen. And in in response to those moments, we both have a nervous system reaction or response. That is, again, autonomic or automatic. It happens in the blink of an eye.
Right.
We can shift how we respond, but we'll get to that in a second. So we have those automatic reactions. And then we have a habitual thought, right? And so here's where the mindset piece comes in. So I like to think of our brains as having, do you remember like old school card catalogs in the library?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, right. In those days, long before Dr. Google, everyone's favorite primary care provider. Come on now.
So true.
Right?
So true. It's the first thing everyone runs to. Yep.
Seriously, please stop. Advocate for yourself, but don't just Google your symptoms. Anyway, so your brain has this card catalog where it keeps all the stored thoughts that were given to you in childhood, from your family blueprint, from your ancestral line, from your society, the cultures, religions, communities you grew up in, right? Thoughts like a good girl is quiet, right? A lovable woman is thin, right? On and on. It is, I should put myself last so I can be lovable, right? On and on. So those thoughts are in there. And I think of, and this is metaphora, not science, but each of our nervous system states gives us access to different card catalogs. So in the nervous system nerd world, we say story follows state, which means the narrative you have access to is based on how you're feeling in your nervous system. So a really simple example would be if you're at the top of a roller coaster. If you're stoked to be there, you're like, this is great. This is fine. This is a beautiful thing to do on a Saturday. You're in ventral vagus. You're safe and social. You're connected. You want to be doing whatever you're doing. You have access to thoughts like, this is great. I'm glad to be here. If your nervous system is in sympathetic, if you're all revved up, you don't actually want to be there. Then the thoughts you have are, this is terrifying. This is a horrible decision.
For sure.
Death and doom are impending, right? And so too, from dorsal, from shutdown, the thoughts you'd have access to are, well, it's been a good run. Soon I shall be dead, right?
Right. Yeah.
Just shut down. I have no capacity to change my life. I can't reach over to the person next to me and connect. I'm all alone on this death trap, right? And so when we can recognize the state of our nervous system, we can see what thoughts we're capable of thinking. And from there, we can regulate our nervous system. And we can use our prefrontal cortex, part of the neocortex, the most evolutionarily advanced part of our human minds, our executive function part, to consciously choose the thoughts we want to think on purpose about the situations and scenarios in life we cannot change.
Amazing. Okay, so let's just use this example, like you said, at the top of the roller coaster. It's funny you use that example because lately I've been telling my husband, I'm like, I feel the need to be on a roller coaster. Like, I just want to, as uncomfortable as I feel it might be, because it's not the same feeling of when I was like 10 years old, right? I'm like, I need to be on a roller coaster. I want those butterflies. Yeah. So, okay, we're at the top of the roller coaster and it's like doomsday. Oh my God, I'm going to die. This sucks. Why did I do this? Worst. I obviously can't back out now.
Obviously not.
So what do we do in that moment?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say nervous system first, right? Because if you try to change your mindset about it, right, then we end up gaslighting ourselves. We end up BSing ourselves and lying to ourselves and saying like, I'm fine. This is fine. I like this. This is really great. I am happy. Am here. What? Death, right? It's not going to work. And so we start with the nervous system. So one of my favorite tools to help us regulate our nervous system, and regulating just means to manage and to shift. So I like to think of the nervous system like a car. I use a lot of metaphora.
It's great.
Oh, I'm so glad. So your nervous system is constantly deciding how much it's going to put your nervous system foot on the gas, which is adrenaline, norepinephrine, sympathetic activation, and how much your nervous system is going to put its foot on the gas, which is dorsal, which is the shutdown. Yeah. And so when you're in ventral vagal, which is, again, the safe and social part of the nervous system, connected, you're like, this is lovely. This is great. I'm here having this conversation with you. I feel pretty chill inside. I've got a little tiny touch of the gas because I'm excited to be here. We're talking about my favorite nerditry. This is a delight, right? But there's a little tiny dorsal because I feel calm inside. And so the net place I'm in is ventral vagus. Yeah. So when we regulate our nervous system, because I know people like see that on Instagram and hear it all the time and don't understand what it means. It's like a number one question I get in my somatic classes. Regulating is just how much gas and how much brake. Yeah. So when you recognize, oh, my foot is all the way on the gas here. I am ramped up. I'm in sympathetic. I'm full of adrenaline. I am the doomsday clock hath begun. The countdown is nigh. You're plotting out your headstone. Like it's a whole, right? But we go there. We go to.
But we do. We can go down the rabbit hole pretty deep. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We go to 27 on a 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah.
So when you recognize you're there, that is the first and most important step, is learning to map your nervous system to know what the heck is going on inside me on an animal level, on a mammalian level. Because when we don't know, when we don't have nervous system education, we blame ourselves. We beat ourselves up. We're like, ugh, what is wrong with me for complaining about being on this roller coaster? Everyone else is so stoked. Why am I being such a baby? Right? We get into that blame.
Right,
and when that's about things like, how do we show up in relationship, particularly when there's conflict? What are we like when we're dating? How are we doing in a negotiation about salary at work? I mean, on and on and on. We add in so much blame that's like totally unnecessary.
So true.
So what do you do when you realize you're in sympathetic? Well, you have a couple options. The first is to check in with yourself and to ask yourself if you want to stay there. Because maybe you want to stay there, right? We are recording this in the shadow of the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which of course was predicated by many years of attacks on bodily autonomy, the attacks on trans folks, LGBT folks here in the US, attacks on reproductive rights across the board. So
it's heavy.
Yeah. So maybe you want to stay pissed off. Maybe you want to stay in anger. Maybe you want to stay revved up because it's getting you to make a crap ton of phone calls and make a lot of donations and post actually useful things, right?
Right.
But maybe you're in a conversation with a partner and you're feeling yourself go to 27 and you're like, yo, self. Getting all angry, defensive, attacking, that's not serving me or the love in this relationship. This isn't building what I want it to. So once you've asked yourself that, don't just assume that sympathetic is for nothing, because it's a beautiful protective mechanism. But once you're like, you know what, I do want to bring the anxiety down, right? I don't want to stay in that. Some really simple tools, either for sympathetic, the freaking out, or dorsal, which is the shut down, is to orient to your environment. So what happens when we leave ventral vagal, when we get dysregulated, there's too much gas or too much brake, is that your mind, your body, your nervous system, your inner children forget who, what, where, and when, mostly when you are, right? So you're shunted back to a time in childhood or an ancestral time when there was danger, right? When you needed to escape, right? When death was actually nigh, everything was a lie. And so when we orient, we bring ourselves back to this time and place. And I love this because it's so simple. It's so accessible. It's free. Like most somatic practices are totally free. And they're beautiful things you can do on a phone call with someone, on a FaceTime with someone, in a conversation, in a boardroom, on a subway, on a plane, on a roller coaster. And so what we do is connect in with the senses. Right? So sensory input helps to bring the body back. And so that can be as simple as looking around the space that you're in, turning your head slowly all the way to the left, for example, bringing it all the way around 180 degrees to the right, and taking in your surroundings. You can add to that naming things you see. I like counting because it gives the limbic system a job. So maybe you count the blue things. Maybe you count the circles. Maybe you count the square. It doesn't really matter. Pick a thing and do it. Simultaneously connecting in with sensations like texture, right? So I might feel my desk. I can feel the grain of the wood under my fingers. I can touch my hair. You know how when we're nervous, we automatically touch our hair without realizing it, pick our nails, right? Do those things. It's not for nothing. Your body's so ridiculously smart. So rubbing your fingers together, exploring the texture of your perfect little arm hairs, the texture of your shirt. Yeah. Rubbing your face gently. These things can all help to bring you back.